The goal for every business is simple. Move faster, go farther, and stay ahead. But standing in your way is one man, the collector of the waiting tax. He's the man with a pager, a Palm Pilot, and a portable CD player just pining to penalize you for your procrastination. Every time you drag your feet on new technology, he gets richer. The longer you wait, the fuller his pockets get. People who clung to DVD rentals while streaming took off, he got rich while they paid late fees. People who held onto flip phones while the world went smart, he cashed in while they tapped out on T9 texts. People who stuck with dial-up while broadband soared, he made a fortune while they listened to the high-pitched screech of internet despair. And today, Cloud 1.0 is keeping him in business. Manual, slow, already at its limit. But here's the good news. Lumen is already building the network for Cloud 2.0. Extreme bandwidth and low latency. Data center interconnect at the core. Reach into AI corridors, distributed on-ramps, and programmable API-first networks. So don't let the collector of the waiting tax take another dime from you. Leap first, reap the reward, and leave him empty-handed. Lumen, the network built for Cloud 2.0.
Let's keep things rolling. Please welcome to the stage Lumen's Chief Technology and Product Officer, Dave Ward.
Hey everyone, as you just heard, I'm Dave Ward. It's great to see so many long-standing friends in the audience here. We've had a joined career over the years, building the internet, building out cloud, and now we're at a point in time. We're at a point in time where what we thought of as the internet architecture is actually fundamentally changing. So I came to Lumen about 1.5 years ago. I know, Kate, it's only been 1.5 years. It seems longer. And one of the greatest things happened to me in my career. The employees that are on my team and the employees on Kai's team and everybody's team said, Dave, if you're gonna change something, change everything. Don't just make small incremental product changes, technology changes, and Kate and Chris backed that up with investment, and Ashley backed it up, bringing the customers with their use cases and their needs, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. We heard a ton of cool stuff from Kai. We saw pictures of giant cranes and tractors putting fiber in the ground, but Kai's network is built to run my software. And my software is built to sell Kai's network because we only have 3 products. Telecom is a very simple business. We sell connectivity, we sell speed, and we sell services. But the point of my story today is that we want to talk about how that internet architecture is changing from Cloud 1 to Cloud 2. I want to talk to you about the rise of the economic implications of what's happening in our industry, what we're building, how we're building it, and then how we're going to provide value to our customers. So this is really postcards or maybe confessions from a bit flinger. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I'm going to throw some figures at you. I'm going to throw some technology at you. But I'd like to treat this talk really just as an introduction to this topic. We have one-on-one time later today. We've known each other a long time. I'd love to talk to you more about this. And I'll be publishing a short white paper, and if you know anything about my blogs, this one's going to run about 22 pages, where I want to explain in depth and in words what I want to introduce today. So networking and the networking industry finally is getting the word out about the changes in the AI economy. Almost all the discussion has been around chips and around data centers and about power. But what you can see on this slide, there will be as much investment in networking as there is going to be in power to build the AI economy. And that's a critical piece because as much as the 9 billion of deals that we have and all the fiber that's going into these new locations, and we'll talk about that in a moment, our customers need to be able to get access to it. So connectivity, where we're connected, speed, why that's critical, and then how we're going to deliver these services. So what's driving this? And I have to admit, a lot of this is a shared history that we have as an industry. I'm going to start the second one. This notion of legacy networks. I've got a long career building MPLS VPNs and traffic engineering and headers on top of encapsulations on top of extension headers. None of that is relevant in the AI economy. Second, the cloud as we know it today took about 10 to 15 years to become the de facto standard of where IT, SaaS, and other services are located. This revolution is going to take us about 3 years. And that's what's fundamentally different on the transition from 1 to 2. The economic opportunity and the investment is unparalleled. Last time we saw this, in fact, was 25 years ago when we were building the internet architecture as we know it today. But the internet architecture and the protocols and the way that we run that network is not fit for purpose anymore. And telcos of the past and service providers of the past absolutely missed the ability to provide services and accelerate the adoption of Cloud 1.0. And Lumen is not going to make that mistake for Cloud 2.0 because we are in the briefcase. We are in the middle of these deals and we're building the products to bring our enterprises and make them relevant in the AI economy. But what this means, there is an architectural shift and a corresponding technology shift, a new way to think about enterprise networks. There's an absolutely completely different way to build enterprise WAN networks in particular. And then we really have to get beyond the notion of a flat internet and flat technology to get to cloud. There's waves and fiber, there's Ethernet, and there's private IP. And we're going to have layers of services and control of these different layers, and that has not been seen before. More than just waves on demand, Ethernet on demand, and IP on demand. Instead, it's a way to control bandwidth, latency, and redundancy for specific workloads and workflows, which is what's required for the AI economy. And let's talk about that for a moment. To make sure we're all on the same page, our work and your work combined together shows that we're going to go from about 240 million square feet of data center space today to a billion square feet of data center space by 2030. There's an insatiable demand for the internet, and there's an insatiable demand for data centers as well. And this isn't all hyperscalers, and I'll show that in a moment. But what we know is that data centers in the US today are at about 98% occupancy. They are full. There is a constant need to construct, and as you can see from 2024 to 2030, just by the amount of construction of data centers themselves, there has to be connectivity for there to be value. And as Lumen has said before, and Kate in particular, for anyone to have an AI strategy, you need to have a cloud strategy, you need to have a data strategy, and you have to have a network strategy. And so here becomes, and the lower box here becomes the location of the enterprise IT architecture in the immediate future. So connectivity and where we connect to, that's what Kai's specializing in. And at the right speeds, we are absolutely at the tip of the spear with 400 gig speeds, pushing out 800 and 1.6 terabit channels, concatenated circuits or ports can't come fast enough, and let me tell you why. Just looking at the ability to move a petabyte over a 10 gig to 400 gig circuit moves from 222 hours to 6 hours. Now, why is that important? Everything in AI is feeding the GPU. GPUs are not economically viable unless they're at 100% utilization constantly. So therefore, it's feeding the data into the data centers and feeding the data into the GPUs. So if you go in, rent or start an AI workload, and you have a 10 gig link, and a training is only a petabyte, you are paying for 222 hours of idle time just to move your data into that cloud. Where you connect, how fast you connect, and how you can control that bandwidth is what is critical in this economy. To make it perfectly clear, when you look at the middle part of this chart, the cost to move a 10 gig, just using a simple measure of 2 cents per gigabyte, $431,000 over a 10 gig link just to load your to load your training into that GPU. At 400 gig, 40 times less cost to load that GPU training. So the point here is, if you want to start running AI on demand and you want to be able to take advantage of this, we have 400 gig today, it immediately shows the need to get to 1.6T as quickly as possible for this economy. So we can build single 400 gig links, we can lag them together, create equal cost multipath. We have all sorts of ways to get the bandwidth that is needed available with today's technology. But as Kai described his metro builds, we're building that with equipment that can immediately be upgraded to 1.6T access links, links to data centers, and links to hyperscalers. Now, this is all on petabyte scale. The size storage we're talking about for AI training is in exabytes. Multiply all this by 1,000. It then becomes very, very clear why where we connect and how fast we connect will drive the economic value of those data centers and really drive the AI economy for our enterprises. So there's an insatiable demand that we see in our pipelines from Ashley and in Kai's builds to immediately utilize all of those fibers that are in that cable that Kai has outside that you may have seen, and why Kai is doing so much construction. So if we're going from, just to make sure it's perfectly clear, earlier in my career, we'd be putting 144 fibers in a particular cable. Kai's now at 1728. Those are 50 terabit fibers. So all of a sudden, you're understanding how much bandwidth. You can take 50 terabit and then understand how many 400 gig waves is in that. We're talking about hundreds of thousands. And what I'm trying to tell you through this economic slide, this slide on the economics, is that it is what's required to take advantage and create economic value out of the AI economy. So we will continue to construct and we'll continue to build to the gigawatt, multi-hundred megawatt, and all the data centers that are out there. Now, to put this in perspective, this bar chart shows hyperscalers, colo, and neoclouds, and their construction over an immediate period through 2028, in which we see a massive surge. We talk about this in the industry quite a bit, and the CAGR of that growth is 66%. Now, as we look beyond 28 to 2030, we see the CAGR is at 17%, and the data center construction at 17% CAGR matches the CAGR of real estate, power, water, cooling, servers, et cetera, that are also growing at 17%. So my point here is that we have immediate line of sight between now and 2028. We understand the 3 years after that, and that the industry will hit 1 billion square feet of data center space, spread roughly in thirds across hyperscalers, colos, and neoclouds. So this is the fundamental economic shift that's happening in our industry, and this is the new core of the internet. We know today that Northern Virginia, half of the internet's traffic, as we know it today, goes through Northern Virginia. With this amount of investment and this movement of traffic, of data, of workloads, of jobs into these data centers, we know this is the new core of the internet. It's not just consumer services. And Lumen is the only company going after this cloud core, and the only one that's won as many deals with hyperscalers, data center operators, and neoclouds to build the fiber there. So I'm extremely happy all my competition is chasing SIM cards, because this is the internet. This is where enterprises are going. Sorry, was that wrong? Okay. Let them chase SIM cards. I want the internet. And that's just for connectivity and speed. So how does this then change the macroeconomics of what we know about Cloud 1 to Cloud 2? So we already know that every hyperscaler has cloud regions throughout the continental US. But when you take a look at the construction and you take a look at these colored dots of where most of the data centers are being built, you see a densification in and around urban areas. That's not surprising. We see a massive amount of diversification based on real estate, power, and water. And Kai is building the fiber. We're building our own routes. We're building it in partnership with power companies, with data center companies, et cetera. And again, the flatness of that WAN into 3 distinct strata: edge, data center interconnect, and hyperscaler backend fabrics. So, therefore, all the construction Kai is doing, where we're connecting, absolutely critical, and we're the only ones building to this space. I may need a new clicker. Nope, here we go. So, Cloud 2.0, extreme bandwidth and low latency required. We can debate where inference is going to happen. It can happen in an edge cloud, it can happen in a neo cloud, it can happen to a hyperscaler, because the distance of those routes is incredibly small due to the diversification of the locations. Second, as Kate mentioned, data center to data center to cloud to cloud, et cetera. That data center interconnect is the new internet core. The expansion into these AI regions, which we can hypothesize, which in my worldview will occur, that we'll have AI regions just like we have cloud regions. And so those AI corridors that we're building to become massive economic value and become the new cloud regions of Cloud 2.0. Now, distributed on-ramps. We've talked about this a couple of times. What this means, in essence, and we announced this with Google, and we're working with others, is that we are building on-ramps into the cloud, into the hyperscalers and into the neo cloud, and with data center operators, away from the current carrier-neutral facilities. There are 17 locations in the continental US where multiple carriers come together. This is there historically because that's where we exchanged voice traffic and long-distance traffic cross-carrier. Those became the on-ramps to the cloud 1.0 that we know it today. They're out of power, they're out of space, and they're in the wrong locations of the network topology to be relevant for the AI economy. So we're building with hyperscalers, data center operators, and neoclouds an intermesh, pre-lit, of tens of terabits of capacity, intertwining our backbone with theirs. So our backbone becomes the backbone for all the enterprises to get to the hyperscalers and neocloud, pre-lit, driven by digital platforms, and now becomes the new on-ramp to the cloud and becomes fully distributed around the continental US. And key for me in this transformation is enabling a fully programmable internet. And I don't just, again, mean IPv4 and the swamp of the internet that we know it today. What is changing is that we can control bandwidth, latency, and redundancy between data centers and cloud on demand. So you can take that 400 gig pipe and you can carve up 100 gigs goes to Amazon, 100 gigs goes to Google, 100 gigs goes to Azure, et cetera, and you can rearrange it all tomorrow on demand. The digital platform becomes critical, and I'll describe that in more detail. But that network as a service is absolutely critical in the Cloud 2.0 economy because enterprises can't predict the partners they'll have tomorrow, where their data is located, how much traffic is necessary between where their AI workloads will be and how much traffic is necessary to be immediately created to move that data to those workloads. Therefore, this leads us to the conclusion that a notion of VPNs, or static point-to-point, must evolve into a fabric in this backbone of controllable bandwidth, latency, and redundancy. So these elements of Cloud 2.0 don't exist in Cloud 1.0 and don't exist in the protocols and features and products that have been delivered by legacy telco, and this is what we are building. As we've mentioned several times, and I want to build this up for you, ecosystem, physical network, and digital platform. Physical network, where we connect in the speed. Digital platform are going to be the services that we create, and the ecosystem are the outcomes that we want to deliver for customers. And you're going to hear quite a bit about that over the next couple of days. I'm going to save the technology partners for Sean Alexander's talk, and I'm going to focus on the hyperscaler and data center operators. Because data center operators have their own backbone, they need to connect to other data centers and cloud, and the number one question is, how do I get my customers to my data center? And I want to answer that question shortly. This partnership with the hyperscalers and data center operators as our ecosystem partners and the intermeshing and the creation of a unified fabric between our backbones and locations, fundamentally different architecture than exists today on the internet. And we are out in front with those partnerships. So on the platform itself, the digital platform, as we know it today, from being in a network as a service-like manner, has to evolve and change. And it's evolving and changing because the ability for our customers to design, price, order, provision, and assure out of one platform becomes the critical mechanisms in which the enterprises keep control, keep the design of their network, but have the ability digitally to be able to manage and assure that their workloads are happening. So this move with Lumen Connect, what we were as a NAS company, now moving into a platform company and cloud native, becomes a critical move for us as a company, and exactly what our customers are demanding. And when I say on the design piece, back to what Kate mentioned, design not only what's on net to Lumen, but also design off-net any carrier's access to be able to build these constructs. And so last, on the physical network side, picking up where Kai left off, what you can see on the left-hand side is an example of Cloud One, shows some point-to-point between data centers, prem, and some cloud. Relatively static, can be rearranged. Hub and spoke-like nature of MPLS VPNs, gateways all over the place. Moving to the vision of Cloud 2, showing this with illustrative data center operators and services, is that fabric. I don't need to think about where my bandwidth is going. I've got a notion of fabric in my network and the fabric ports that I'll talk about in just a second. These enable me to flexibly rearrange at any time my connectivity. And just as an example, we see our customers having on average of 36 different data locations to run their enterprises. So this means that we need to create on-demand data clouds for our customers. You build that with a fabric. They need to connect between multitude of data centers that have been chosen throughout the history of the company and a multitude of cloud partners, switching that bandwidth, defining latency, defining redundancy on demand across just moving their data, let alone the transformation to adopt SaaS, whether it's their ERP, CRM, whether they're also bringing in Workday, Autodesk, whatever the case might be. Selection of storage partners, Snowflakes to S3 to Wasabis, and again, this is just for conversation. All of IT has moved into the cloud, but without a fabric, you're stuck with static hub and spoke, point-to-point connectivity that is not flexible enough to make that transformation or meet the partnerships and outcomes that our enterprise customers want to hit. So what is absolutely key about the vision that we have for our digital future? Our customers keep control. They keep the ability to design their connectivity and their business foundation based upon their connectivity architecture. but they don't need to own, manage, or operate any of these assets. To be perfectly clear, do-it-yourself is dead in Cloud 2.0. There is no core value to an enterprise or intellectual property to get out of owning, managing, and operating assets. This is what Lumen does. But what has never been seen in a VPN or managed service offer is the ability for the customer to design and control it themselves. Full power to define their enterprise in design, and our ability to deliver all of this connectivity and services with Lumen Connect. And you get something that looks like this picture, which is an example of everything connected to everything, on demand, changing bandwidth on demand, and only paying for what you use, and usage-based billing. So as we're transforming our products and our portfolio that my friend Dave's going to talk about next, we're transforming the back end of Lumen as well to be able to incorporate all of these new features that legacy telco had never had before. Kate mentioned this, but I want to reiterate this. The big change is a way that we think about delivering services in our network. So the notion of multi-service ports has been built by a number of system integrators for a very long time. But Kai and I had not deployed multiple services over the same port in the history that we have together. So a fabric port, single physical port, multiple services on top. Services that I'm talking about: access to the internet, site-to-site connectivity, voice connectivity, storage and archive connectivity, certain amount of bandwidth going to any one of the 3 hyperscalers, certain amount of bandwidth going to my ERP and CRM. These become the new units of services and of value that we're creating for Lumen and creating for our customers. Every one of these services, Ethernet, IP, private IP, the customer can design and control. How much bandwidth now? How much bandwidth tomorrow? Is it very latency specific? All of that can be controlled by the customer through these fabric ports. And it gives us a future-proof nature of being able to roll out additional services on top of this. So for Ashley, incredibly easy mode to sell. Get a port on our network, get a number of ports, build the services you need, build the enterprise that you want, and build it with the assurance and the capabilities to match the workflows that you have in your enterprise. And then this can scale. And it can scale massively because we're using industry standard building blocks to be able to get this done. So, all that sounded fantastic. And we know that we've got a legacy telco problem. We have lots of customers on our legacy products. And all of our enterprises want to be part of the AI economy and want to be able to get to this new cloud infrastructure. So how can we transform and enable enterprises to transform to Cloud 2.0 without missing a step? Let's watch this video.
What if there was an intelligent device with digital twin? Instant, agile, a consistent experience everywhere, future-proof and partner-ready. What if it turned dumb pipes into smart, programmable pipes with cloud-like agility for enterprise networks? We didn't just ask, what if? We turned it into what's next.
Oh, look at this, the table moved. So many of you have known me for a long period of time, and you probably can imagine what's underneath this on top of this pedestal. And what I'm about to show you has not existed in the industry before. There's no system integrator that has built the ability to transition and migrate an enterprise between different connectivity. There is no one that has ever built something that is controlled by a cloud-native platform, and this is Project Berkeley. The smallest router I've ever designed in my career, but perhaps the most powerful. because it doesn't just fling bits. This front panel allows for connectivity, copper, fiber, Ethernet, LEO, fixed wireless access, 5G. It is the only one with a Swiss Army knife as a front panel. And this is controlled. Let me step forward so you can read about it too. This device on Lumen's network and across any other provider's access network can virtualize the underlay and deliver all the services that I just described to you from our digital platform in Lumen Connect. So all of my other service provider partners, maybe competitors, all my service provider partners in the industry, I now run the services on their network. And we connect this back to Lumen's backbone, and therefore, all customers on the internet have the ability to take advantage and become part of the Cloud 2.0 AI economy because we can connect any form of legacy access and turn that into modernity. Already built zero-touch provisioning platform, digital control through Lumen Connect, to be integrated and sold through hyperscaler marketplaces, and a full ecosystem possibility. Let me put this down for a second. So, SD-WAN and SASE, great ecosystem partners of ours. But SD-WAN and SASE has a massive problem. They're tunnels over the swamp of the internet. How are tunnels over the swamp of the internet going to be viable in the AI economy? They're not, unless those tunnels are pushed into bandwidth, latency, and redundancy controlled, virtualized underlay from Project Berkeley. Security built in, MACsec, device security as well, fanless, hardened, and a full portfolio of options of speeds and feeds to hit the market cost points. The value we're bringing, full digital twin of the enterprise. We have a full replicant understanding of exactly what's going on this device running out of our cloud. Zero-touch provisioning, as I mentioned, Kai's technicians, and hopefully soon just somebody in a brown van delivering a box, will hand this box to a customer, 2 cables, power, and their access, finds itself immediately out of Lumen Connect. So this becomes our fabric port on-prem. So we're the only provider to have the ability not only for data center to data center and cloud to cloud, but now prem to cloud, prem to data center, prem to prem, with full bandwidth, latency, and redundancy control. And to make sure it's clear, the reason we can do this is because we have a digital platform using a programmable device to create a programmable internet in addition to the dynamic routing protocols that we know. There is no system integrator building this device. There is no other network that's going after enterprise business services and cloud core like we are. So we had to build it ourselves. And the team we have in engineering and the innovation that we've been able to accomplish has been astounding in such a short period of time. Fewer truck rolls, easier to use, easier to sell, and that is how enterprises get to the AI economy. So I'm going to summarize this portion and then wrap up for a second. The programmable fabric that we are building in the cloud core is now the core of the internet. High-speed, secure connectivity where we connect. Kai is proving that out and hitting all his dates, and we're going to continue to be in partnership with hyperscalers, data center operators, data center construction companies, neoclouds, to build the network to connect them together. API-led and activation in hyperscaler marketplaces. Enterprises now can buy the outcome, and the network can deliver it through Berkeley and what we have across our network. Safe, redundant, reliable. Kai continues to build the most reliable network in the industry in the continental US, and a single platform of Lumen Connect to design, price, order, provision, and assure. So without these, without any other provider going after this space, we are fully going after being the enterprise on-ramp to the new AI economy. So to build this up, building the physical network now for us includes everything on-net to Lumen and everything off-net of Lumen, because we can provide those services. Next, sold a different way, directly plumbed into the hyperscalers and data centers, and with new on-ramps distributed around the country, all run by Lumen Connect. As we build up, you can see where the data centers are being constructed. Now you can see where Kai is constructing his network. And we can have full design and control for enterprises via the digital platform attached to all the major cloud vendors and all the data centers that are being built. And linking those data centers into the AI regions that are emerging in the US. These AI regions now become the new commercial nature of the internet core, and something we all need to track as an industry. As we build up these on-ramps, and you can see there are now redundantly within every one of the AI regions and AI region interconnect, this becomes new pricing capability and new pricing and offering that we're hypothesizing is going to emerge in the market. And then the ecosystem space. As you'll hear from many of our ecosystem partners, those that are doing cyber recovery, those that are doing storage, UC, CRMs, ERPs, on and on, every single SaaS player, or those that are building cloud natively, we can see an emergence of subsegments of the economy that are fully within cloud that Sean in our Lumen validated design offer that we'll talk about in just a second, we can now build outcomes for our customers with our technology partners, utilizing our backbone and our on-ramps to provide a fully new and different value proposition to our customers. So this is the target that we want to go after. So this might sound a little harsh or maybe a little cheeky, but enterprises will be defined as leaders or laggards in this economy. Those who adopt the architectural shift, take control of the design of their own enterprise, who they partner with, how they connect, how they transform, how they construct, and how they take advantage of AI, you're either on the journey or you're falling behind. So the enterprises that are going AI native, cloud first, just isn't enough anymore. It now is how do you utilize the cloud? How do you match your workloads wherever they may be located, with your data, wherever that may be located, with a partner that you're going to use to train it? You must have a programmable fabric to do this. We know that everything is headed towards exabytes of data being transferred and of extreme low latency built into the network. So we're changing incredibly fast. And then cloud core. I think I've said this a number of times now, but it is incredibly important to realize the core of the internet is now the core of the data center interconnect between all of these sites. And the full flow of customer experience being digitized and agentified is the path forward for design, price, order, provision, and assure. So I thank you all very much. I'm extremely happy to introduce Project Berkeley to you. And just a quick introduction to the vision that we have at Lumen for how to fundamentally change and positively disrupt the business of being in the internet. Thank you.